Welcome into a fresh week here on Daily Faceoff Live. We're streaming live on the DFO YouTube, or the YouTube chat's angry. I'm sorry, but we're ready to go. We're starting now. The show, as always, a presentation of Bet365. Download the app today. Use the promo code NATION, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Frank Seravalli joins me, as always. Frank, on the heels of a nice Father's Day weekend, I assume?
Yeah, it was good. A little bit of flag football for my son, nice and relaxed. A little bout of food poisoning on Saturday night heading into Sunday, but we're past that now. And I don't know. I mean, I could use a little 2 to 3 week stomach virus to drop 20 to 30 pounds.
Can I ask, what position does your son play in flag football?
He plays wide out.
Ooh, nice. A little deep ball threat in the Seravalli household. Anyways, we're going to be joined by Brent Wallace in a little bit, do a Senators offseason preview. We're actually double dipping in the offseason previews today. But let's start, Frank, with the game from Saturday night. Rogers Place was absolutely rocking. Downtown Edmonton was buzzing, but it was the Florida Panthers, those road rats. They are just unbelievable away from Florida. They continue their torrid run through these Stanley Cup playoffs on the road. When you look at that hockey game, listen, I know I have biases, so I view this a lot as man, the Oilers just no-showed in this hockey game. But where do you kind of go on the meter of the Panthers smothered them to the Oilers no-showed in Game 5?
It's probably a pretty solid blend of both. I mean, a big part of the lack of success that we're seeing from the Oilers in this series, why the Panthers have had leads for such long stretches, is because of how well they play, how much they stick to their script, how relatively disciplined they are for a team that loves to drag you into the alley. And they are in a spot where they've controlled huge swaths of this series. That's fact. That said, I think it can also be true at the same time that the Oilers really just didn't have the jump. And I think when you look at a couple attention to detail plays, some goals where you're beaten off of faceoffs, those are things that are controllable. Those are effort things. Those are focus things. And now the Oilers are left in a spot where they've got to win in a place that's been very inhospitable to them in Florida on Tuesday night to extend their season and force a Game 7. But beyond that, they're trying to buck two really significant trends. One, you see the penalty kill percentage on here. The worst team to win a Stanley Cup in the salary cap era is the Vegas Golden Knights on their PK with 71%. So the Oilers are south of 70 at 69.6. That's one stat that stands out. And two, another key differentiator between these two teams has been the goaltending. And the Oilers are trying to become the first team since the 1992 Pittsburgh Penguins to win a Stanley Cup with a goals against average above 3. That's two significant headwinds for this team moving forward that they're going to have to try and solve over a 2-game stretch. But it starts with one game, one night, where you need frankly, a Mark Messier-like night from Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl to put the team on their back and get to an all-deciding Game 7.
Last year, the first time the Florida Panthers had a chance to put away the Oilers, they got blown out in Game 4 in Edmonton. It was an 8-1 final. And you can talk about how this Oilers team showed last year. They have a ton of resiliency, being pushed up against the wall or pushed to the brink of elimination isn't going to rattle them. You can also look and go, man, I don't think Florida's the type of team who lets their foot off the gas 2 years in a row. I don't think Game 6 will be a blowout in either way. It'll probably come down to a bounce or two, but I don't think you can just look to last year and go, well, the Oilers won 3 in a row last year. They can rattle off a couple now. It's not that easy because Florida deserves a ton of credit.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy at all because I think the biggest thing that when you go into an elimination game for the Cup is that the team that has a chance to win feels those same nerves that you do, that your season's on the line. And I think a big part of that was knowing for the Panthers how close they were last year, having lost it the previous year. Now that you've won one, I think it takes a ton of pressure off of them to try and win it again on home ice and save themselves 12 more hours on a plane going back to Alberta.
Let's keep cruising along, Frank. Obviously, tomorrow is going to be a very Stanley Cup Final heavy show here, with Game 6 going tomorrow night, 8 o'clock Eastern, down in Sunrise. But we did get some news today on the Olympic front. Very exciting, by the way, that we're heading into an Olympic year, and countries starting to drop their first 6 players that they're adding to their roster, very similar to what they did with the Four Nations Faceoff last year. Let's start with this. What's a bigger surprise? Gabe Landeskog, who's played 5 games in the last 2 or 3 seasons, being named to Sweden, or JJ Peterka being left off the Germany roster?
Probably going to go with Gabe Landeskog being a selection for Sweden. I mean, he's a guy that obviously deserves a ton of credit for the way that he's worked his way back to playing again. But 5 games in 3 calendar years to make him one of your first 6 selections for Sweden is pretty surprising. I guess from the Peterka front, with how good he's been, basically knocking on the door of 30-goal seasons 2 years in a row now, on a really bad Buffalo team, I think what you're left with is Germany just deciding to name Philipp Grubauer, despite being one of the worst goalies in the league the last couple of years, as a veteran presence that they decided that they need on their team. So doesn't really make a ton of sense to me on both of the selections, but I think we're in for some other really interesting news, though, later today. I put out my projection for Team USA, and Connor Hellebuyck's not on it. That's the reigning Hart and Vezina Trophy winner, and I don't believe he's going to be selected by Team USA as one of their first 6 when that roster comes out in 44 minutes time.
Interesting. I mean, obviously there were the dueling chants during that playoff series, with Ottinger and Hellebuyck and their 2 respective fan bases. But Otter, Hellebuyck, even a guy like Dustin Wolf might be able to work his way into that conversation, Frank.
Yeah, I mean, Swayman was also pretty good at the Worlds. I'd say it's never wrong based on the nature of the position to not name a goalie in the circumstance. It's not like we're saying Connor Hellebuyck's not going to make the team. No one's saying that at all. It's just that, hey, look, Team Canada, they had an opportunity with Binnington, who showed some huge stones in the Four Nations Faceoff. He's not named to one of their top 6. Sidney Crosby, Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar, Sam Reinhart, Braden Point, and I'm missing one more.
Makar, Reinhart, Point, Makar, McKinnon, McDavid, Crosby.
Yeah, McDavid. That's a pretty big one to miss.
Connor McDavid will be wearing a Team Canada sweater at the Olympics. Dailyfaceoff.com, Larkin and Ellis are giving some breakdowns as they go through. Maybe one more quick one for you, Frank. It is kind of fun to see some of the countries that obviously we didn't get at the Four Nations Faceoff. I look at Switzerland and I'm like, okay, Fiala, Hischier, Meyer, Niederreiter, Siegenthaler, Yost. Probably push for that could probably push for their maybe a bronze medal, maybe get into a bronze medal game kind of thing.
Yeah, I think the only trouble for Switzerland is that it starts to get thin in a hurry. You've got some talented players obviously up front, but what happens to the 15th to 20th slots on your roster? I think you really begin to struggle a bit.
Yeah, fair. Let's keep cruising along here, Frank. Play a little over-under. Obviously, we didn't have a show on Friday with the travel day, but the Hart Trophy news came down. Connor Hellebuyck capturing a Hart Trophy as a goalie. It is something that does not happen that often. You got to go back basically a decade from when Carey Price won a Hart. Let me ask you, though, is this another one-off, or is this a trend over-under 9.5 years until we get another goalie to win the Hart? Which way would you lean?
I would lean toward over. I think it takes a very special goalie who transcends the position. There already is an award for the position. And it's a big reason why I did not vote for, well, I voted for Connor Hellebuyck, but not in the number 1 position on my ballot. That went to Leon Draisaitl. Look, there's still, and Hellebuyck plays more than any goalie basically, but there's still at least a quarter of the season where he's sitting on the bench. And yes, you could make the argument on the flip side to that. Hey, when he's in net, he's playing all 60 or 65 minutes, and that is true. But there's still 25% where he's playing likely 0 at least. And so I think that number is going to continue to grow. I think it's going to take, a head and shoulders above season, above anyone else to be in that conversation. And frankly, I'm kind of surprised at how the voting ended up, that he was such a relative runaway winner.
Yeah, and there was a lot of talk as well about, Nikita Kucherov and the season he put together. He's won one Hart Trophy back in 2019, and you could argue that since then, in the 6 seasons, outside of Connor McDavid, he's been the most consistent offensive producer in the league. He's been one of the most consistent players in the National Hockey League as well. There was some talk about Kucherov not winning it, even though maybe he does deserve one more. I'm going to give you over under a 25% chance that Kucherov finds a way to capture another MVP in his career.
I'll say over. I'll take that for sure. Such a special player. Yes, starting to get a little bit older. Yes, the team in Tampa seems to be, I think, at least a little bit deteriorating. I think they're on the downslope as opposed to the upslope. But I think it's really interesting, and this debate sort of ignited on social media again over the weekend, which is the way the media views players and the way that players view players. So not lost on anyone that the Ted Lindsay gets awarded to Nikita Kucherov as voted by his peers. They think the most outstanding player in the world this season. Also interesting was that their player poll came out at some point this year, and Connor Hellebuyck was not picked by the players as the best goalie in the league. That would be Andrei Vasilevsky. So you see kind of this disparity, and it does raise the question, although two entirely different awards, most valuable player and most outstanding player, but nonetheless, a discrepancy. What if a different entity were voting on the awards, whether it be management or a selected panel by the NHL or whoever? Obviously not advocating for that as president of the Professional Hockey Writers Association. I think we get it right consistently, but it is interesting to see that different voting panels view it differently.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Let's stick with Nikita Kucherov and those Tampa Bay Lightning. Frank, we're double dipping in our offseason previews. We'll get to Brent Wallace in about 2 minutes here to talk some Senators, but another Atlantic Division team is the Tampa Bay Lightning. And heading into a summer where, listen, they don't have a lot of cap space, but you can kind of sit and point to the deadline move they made, acquiring Bjorkstrand and Gord. The fact that both those guys are now under contract and are going to be back next season. Bjorkstrand with one more year left on the deal. They don't have a lot of money, but they don't have a lot of needs really either. How do you view this Lightning team heading into the summer?
I view this team as a good team, but a flawed team. I still think that they're a team that when they get to the playoffs, that they are significantly outmatched in the bottom portion of their lineup. I mean, think about what we were just talking about with Switzerland. You see it play out really quickly in a short tournament, right? And this time around, when it's a 7-game series and a playoff series, think about what has made Edmonton and Florida so special. Florida is arguably the best 3-line team in the league. The Oilers run 4 lines. The Tampa Bay Lightning, I think, get thin in a hurry. And yeah, they didn't do themselves any favors with some of the injuries that popped up. And their list was incredibly long for a team that did not have a long playoff run. But that, to me, I think stands out as a key differentiator on both sides of the puck. Their defense core also gets really thin in the bottom pair. And part of that's just salary cap and the way that the team is structured. I don't know their way around it. I don't know that they're going to solve for it. But I think the early indication is that the Lightning are going to be one of the more aggressive teams this offseason to try and rejig things. I don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah, so it's interesting you say that, because I was about to be like, Frank, if you were to rank who's going to be the 5 most boring teams this summer, I was going to say Tampa was one of them, because if they want to rejig things, let's go through their high-paid forwards: Kucherov, Point, Gensel, Hagel, Seravalli, then Bjorkstrand, Nick Paul. I can't see them trading any of those guys. You go to the blue line, McDonough, you probably can't trade him as much as he had a good season. That's a big, big ticket. I just don't see a path to finding any sort of flexibility here.
They're going to have to make some tough decisions.
Yeah, I guess they don't have a first rounder. They do have a second rounder. I would say use that second rounder. You need to get some amount of youth coming through the pipeline at some point here if you're Tampa Bay, which again makes the Isaac Howard thing all the more puzzling as well. Why would you not just be doing anything you could to get that guy in your lineup?
Yeah, my indication is that the Lightning are going to be one of the teams that are in the mix on the Paterka sweepstakes. So what that looks like, how they pull it off, I don't know what vets would be going back the other way. But if you're Buffalo and you want help now, maybe Tampa's one of those teams that can solve for that need for you.
And that would be something. All right, let's keep cruising along and get to our big segment for the day. It's brought to you by Budweiser. Budweiser is encouraging buds to make time for the playoffs, not excuses, and there might only be 2 more game nights left if we're lucky. So phone a bud, text a bud, and call out their excuses for bailing on the playoffs. After all, the playoffs are the most wonderful time of the year. Make them count with Budweiser. Always a pleasure to be joined by Brent Wallace from Coming In Hot, covering the Ottawa Senators. And Wally, I'm going to start you with just a nice little softball here. Priority number 1 for Steve Staios this summer is?
Oh, see, that'd probably be a right shot D, but that seems to be like the easy way out of everybody saying that. Claude Giroux would be, he's the talking point. UFA, we thought that there would be something done already. They're talking about negotiations. I don't know, Frank, if you've heard anything, but I'm hearing like he wants just a 1-year deal. I just don't know where it is. And now as we get 2 weeks here to free agency, I think he's going to go to market.
So if he wants just a 1-year deal, like, can I ask a stupid question? How hard could this possibly be to solve for if you're the Ottawa Senators?
Right? Well, that's the argument. So then the question is, well, do they need something different in their top 6 if it's not Claude Giroux? Keep in mind, he was the best faceoff guy in the league last year. He had a great playoff, but they need to find a way to maybe find some speed up front. Or is it younger? They also have David Perron in their top 6. There's just a way they've got to try and figure something out. And Claude Giroux is a big piece of whatever that puzzle is. And one last thing. We've heard this from Michael Andlauer, the Senators owner, a week ago. They're not a cap team as much as they are a budget team at the moment. And they're not going to be spending way out of whack to try and get to the $95 million cap space.
That was going to be my next question, because I did not hear that from Michael Andlauer, but my assumption made based on the exact conversation we're having about Giroux, based on my understanding of the tenor of conversations that they've had with agents of pending free agents, wink, wink, would be that they aren't interested in spending a lot. Is Andlauer putting an internal budget in place that keeps them south of 95 million?
Yes. Now, 2 things. One, when they took over the team, they had no cap space, and it hooped them for almost a season to try and figure out how to manage their roster. So that's one. They want to have some kind of flexibility, but they still need to sign. They've only got 8 forwards under contract. They need to sign guys to get them in the roster, and they've got $15 million. It's not a huge amount of cap space, though. We'll see how that plays out. Like Claude Giroux was making $6.5 million. Exactly what's his pay cut? People think he's going to take 3. I think it's north of 5. Like, I don't think we're going to cut his salary in half and expect him to be a top 6 player. So the issue is, and Frank, this always happens with Canadian teams, and Tyler, is $95 million in salary in US money is about 138 Canadian. That's a significant amount of money, especially when some of your sponsorship is through Canadian money.
Yeah, just wait for 2 more years from now when it's going to be $160 million in Canadian money. I've been saying for a while, Ottawa, Winnipeg, Calgary, these are teams that are going to be in totally different conversations that as the cap continues to go up, there's no way that they could raise prices to charge fans or sponsors commensurate to that increase, to the point where you can find a viable business option to run and be profitable, that the only way to pare that back is going to have to be to instruct some kind of internal cap or budget where you say, hey, we're not exceeding this threshold simply because we can't.
It's an interesting topic because they went, as you know, we all went through it with the Melnyk era at the end, going, trying to almost get to the floor at one point. So people are a little sensitive to hearing about being a budget team. That being said, they're still spending $80+ million on a roster. I don't know what it's going to end up. It might even be 90, but it's going to be a little bit different than spending whatever it takes to get to this being the best team to win a Stanley Cup. That's the only thing. I don't think it's going to be that significant at the end of the day, but it will be less than just being a $95 million team.
So then are there maybe some candidates to be moved off this roster? Like you talked about the right side of their blue line, and then I look at their Puckpedia and it's like, okay, you got Zub, Jensen, Carter Yaremchuk, if he's going to be an NHLer next year, like even up front, if they're going to try fill those 4 roster spots, $15 million, like do you sacrifice, I don't know, like a Bath or something? Like who on this roster could move?
Yeah. So And again, and we heard Michael Andlauer a week ago saying we're not trading Drake Bathurst, and his contract is really too good at $5 million and scoring 80 points a season. I don't see him being moved, and the fact that the owner came out and was emphatic. The blue line is interesting. Nick Jensen had surgery on his hip in the offseason. We don't know if it was a scope or if it was resurfaced. So we don't know if he's back in time for the start of the season. And if he goes LTIR or whatever, that opens up a spot. But right now they have 6D signed to one-way contracts. It looks like it's set, but Nick Jensen is a question mark on that right side. Can he come back and be ready for the start of the season? And we just don't know the answer.
So aside from Claude Giroux, when you're looking at filling out this forward group, is Fabian Zetterlund the next most likely guy to you'll figure things out and get it done?
So I have a great question about Fabian Zetterlund. He's nearly a 20 goal scorer, but he didn't do very much when he came to Ottawa. And so, Frank, I heard he wanted a lot of money in San Jose, which is one of the reasons they moved him to Ottawa for Zach Ostapchuk. Have you heard anything regarding how much that camp is looking for with Fabian Zetterlund?
No, I haven't heard an exact figure, but that was one of the real puzzling moves of the deadline for me, saying, if you're San Jose, you need more goals, you need more support, you've got tons and tons of cap space. Why on earth are you not keeping this talented player?
Because I heard he wants a lot of money. I could be wrong,
Makes sense.
But that's what I heard, and so they moved on from him. I don't know where he fits. I don't know if he's a top six. He's got good speed. He's hardworking. He just doesn't get much done.
So let's pull back a little bit and let's ask a 10,000-foot question. Given where the Sens are at, obviously a huge step forward last year to be a playoff team.
Yeah.
Is it a given that they're just going to be one again?
No. I think they're an injury away from having a struggle of a season. I think they need a top six player and they need another veteran right shot D. And we don't know if guys coming back are going to be as good. Like Adam Gaudette played up and down the lineup. For the most part, though, he was a fourth line center, nearly had 20 goals. Like there's some spots there that they've got to try and fill that they need good depth guys. Right now, they don't have them. They have no one signed on their fourth line. Fabian Zetterlund's an RFA. We'll see where he fits, but they need some help. I don't think it's a given that they're a playoff team. No.
Well, and especially when you look at that division as well, right? Like nothing can be a given in this division. I mean, in that conference in general.
It's tough to play against Florida, Tampa, Toronto, and you're just like, okay, they're going to fall off this year, and they never do. So it's a tough grind, and Detroit should be getting better. So I'm curious to see where this plays out. They may need to make another bold move. I'm just not sure what it is. And then we go back to they don't have a draft pick of first round next year. They said they're going to draft 21st overall this year. The next year's draft is the one they lose for compensation for the penalty regarding the Evgeny Dadonov deal. I don't know what they're going to do. They don't have a lot of draft capital. They don't have a lot of things in the farm system to make big moves right now. It's an interesting team to watch.
That's like, is that not a mistake picking this year then? Like, in what world do you think they're picking like higher than that? Like, what's the logic there?
So here's the only thing I can think of, Tyler. They're still holding out hope that they will have this penalty reduced like they did in New Jersey with Kovalchuk, that maybe instead of it being like losing their first round pick, that pick moves to the end of the first round. I think they're just hoping that perhaps they won't lose that pick completely. But I think that's a pipe dream because Gary Bettman has made no indications that he's going to reduce that penalty.
Oh, man, that is going to be... I came into this being like, I wonder how interesting of a summer it's going to be in Ottawa. I'm coming out of this going, oh, boy, it's going to be a very interesting summer in Ottawa. Wally, appreciate your time. You can find him coming in hot over on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast from. Thanks for doing this.
Anytime, boys. Great job, by the way, on the playoff run.
Thank you. Daily Faceoff inbox question time. Frank Seravalli. We got one in from our friend Joe, who's always dropping in good questions. He says, with the news of Buffalo listening to offers on Peterka, which you've been all over for quite some time now, he goes, what could a package look like? So let me present it to you like this. This is not like a what would Buffalo like? This is like, what are they going to get? Is it futures or is it kind of veterans and help now?
It depends on which way you want to slice it. Are you
Okay.
more interested in grabbing a guy for the future, knowing that, I don't know, even if you're able to squeak in this year, is anyone looking at you as an authentic contender? What if a team says, I don't know, Utah or Chicago or someone, they say, we'll give you number 3 or 4 overall. Are you jumping at that plus another package, something else that comes with it? Or are you going to go we just talked about Tampa and that possibility? Like, do you take some of the roster help that they have now and take on whatever contracts they have and try and pump up your team right in the here and now to make it? I think they're a very difficult trade partner because A, it's hard to get Kevin Adams to say yes on anything. And B, what's the proper path moving forward? Future, blend, present? I don't know.
Yeah, fair. Let's cruise along, get to our daily bets brought to you by Bet365. Download the app, use the code NATION. Whatever your bet, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Game props, player props, totals, and money line. They're an official partner of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Must be 19 or older. A couple here I got for you. First up, this is to lead the series in scoring. Leon Draisaitl is a minus 115 favorite. He is just 1 point clear of Connor McDavid, and he is 2 points clear of all of the Florida Panthers that you see on this list. So in order for one of the Panthers to win it, they would need a 2-3 point performance in game 6, or again, the series drags on and the math gets different. But Frank, you think Draisaitl minus 115, you think it's a good spot for him to hold on to that 1 point lead?
Yes, but I agree, but I just don't think the juice is enough for me to do it.
Yeah, like anytime you're doing minus money and you're betting against Connor McDavid in some regard, that always makes me a little cautious. But also, if the series ends tomorrow night, could I see, Sam Bennett having a 2 point performance and shooting in there? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and Matthew Tkachuk has been a point per game player kind of very quietly.
Yeah.
Like, I look at that and I say, what if the Oilers are shut out or it's a 4-1 game again and a couple of those guys are piling up points? Like, I just don't know that I'd take it.
Yeah, no, that's fair. The other one that we've been tracking throughout the playoffs is who gets the Stanley Cup first in the handoff. And ahead of game 6, Brad Marchand has vaulted into the top spot. He's tied with Nate Schmidt, so they're co-leaders. But Brad Marchand at 190. If you think the Panthers are finishing it off tomorrow and they're money line favorites already, we'll talk more about that on tomorrow's show. But it's got to be Marchand at this point, right, Frank?
Yes, but I still like Draisaitl at plus 900. I still think that there's a window of, I know everyone's been on Nuge and longest tenured Oiler and all those things. It's so hard for me to pass up if the Oilers get to game 7 and win the Connor to best friend Leon moment.
Yeah.
It feels like something that was written in Hollywood.
Yeah, totally. Let's wrap up the show with a little bit of garbage time here, Frank, and just a wild, bizarre moment from the American Hockey League's Calder Cup Final, where Charlotte and Abbotsford, you can see on the right side of your screen, Arthur Seelovs is still fixing something, drinking out of his water bottle. He's not paying attention at all. The puck gets dropped. Charlotte scores. This is in double overtime, so it ends the game for a moment, and then they huddle up and say, no, it's no goal. What do you make of this? Is this the right call to reverse it?
Yeah, that's the right call. If the goalie isn't even set coming out of a timeout, that's just a premature evacuation of the puck is what that is. The linesman should have held on to it for longer than that. So to me, I think correct call made. Just to bring it local to my area, consider this. Bases loaded, Pennsylvania 6A state championship baseball game. They lost on a balk.
Oh.
That was can you end? Is it the right call? Maybe, but is it really the right call? I'd argue the situation and circumstance would dictate no.
Yeah, I did see the video of that. That is absolutely heartbreaking. But for me too, the linesmen I think are supposed to check. The refs are supposed to be checking. People are saying no, it's your team centerman's responsibility. I was like, no, it's not. He's focused on the faceoff. It's like if the refs drop the puck and one team has 6 skaters on the ice, you don't get a too many men penalty. They just blow it dead and go, whoa, whoops. Let's redrop this. Figure out what's going on.
Yeah, I think redropping was the correct play, and not for nothing. I don't think anyone wants to win that way either.
Yeah, I think that's fair as well. All right, that is a wrap on today's edition of the show. Tomorrow, game day, Oilers, Panthers, Game 6. The Stanley Cup is in the building once again in Sunrise, Florida. We'll have John Goyens on the show to give us a little tactical breakdown of things, and we'll give our thoughts on a handful of other stories heading into that game. That's a wrap on a Monday edition of the show. We'll see you all right back here tomorrow, noon Eastern. What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you're going to want to hit the subscribe button to not miss any of our content. From daily live shows with Frank Seravalli to analysis from former NHLers to exclusive interviews with some of the biggest names in the hockey world on Frankly Speaking. You're going to want to hit that subscribe button and stay up to date with everything going on in the hockey world.